The end of Barcelona's recent game against Las Palmas was surreal, filled with a sense of disbelief that seemed to hang over the entire stadium. As the match came to a close, Barcelona's manager Hansi Flick clapped in the direction of the crowd, a gesture that felt almost out of place given the eerie silence that had taken over. The section of the stadium known for housing the most passionate and vocal fans was conspicuously empty. This wasn't due to an unusual lack of attendance, but rather the consequence of a ban imposed on the club by both La Liga and UEFA. The penalty stemmed from a fine of €21,000, a sum that Barcelona had yet to pay, which had resulted in the supporters from that section being barred from attending. It was a strange backdrop to an already bizarre game. Flick's team, usually accustomed to starting their matches in the evening hours, had been asked to play at 2 p.m. The atmosphere was already far from ideal, but the real shocker came in the form of the scoreline. Barcelona, at home no less, were being outplayed by a Las Palmas side that had not managed to win in Barcelona for over 5 decades. For Barcelona, a team that had only the day before celebrated its 125th anniversary, this was far from the ideal way to cap off their milestone. To put things into perspective, Barcelona's celebrations leading up to the game had been grandiose. The team donned the red and blue halved shirts and white shorts that harkened back to the club's early years, and they even introduced a new mascot, a cat named Cat, a playful nod to the Catalan roots of the club. They also proudly unveiled a new 125th anniversary anthem, aiming to create a festive mood around the occasion. But none of this seemed to have an effect on the game. The celebrations were completely overshadowed by the disappointing result. A fixture that had originally seemed like a straightforward affair ended in a 2-1 defeat, further dampening the mood in a stadium that had hoped for a fitting celebration of its long and storied history. This loss extended Barcelona's winless run in La Liga to 3 games. The team had previously drawn with Real Sociedad and Celta Vigo, and this latest defeat at the hands of Las Palmas meant that their momentum from earlier in the season had come to a screeching halt. For Flick's team, it was the first time they had lost at their new home stadium, Montjuic, a venue they had been using temporarily during the ongoing renovations of their iconic Camp Nou. More significantly, it was also the first time any team had managed to score twice against Barcelona in Montjuic. What had started as an exciting campaign under Flick now appeared to be rapidly spiraling downward. It wasn't long ago that Barcelona's fortune seemed to be on an upward trajectory. Just a month earlier, in late October, they had delivered 2 performances that seemed to solidify their position as one of the strongest teams in Europe. First, they trounced Real Madrid 4-0 at the Santiago Bernabéu, before following up with a dominant win over Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Those were the kinds of victories that seemed to suggest Barcelona had truly turned a corner under their new manager. At that point, they were 6 points ahead of Real Madrid in La Liga, and their style of play, which combined high pressing with a well-organized defense and dynamic attacking movements, had the football world buzzing. The team appeared to be on a completely different level compared to the previous season under Xavi. However, since those high points, the mood has shifted drastically. The Barcelona that was once feared by their opponents seems to have lost its edge. The performance against Las Palmas was a stark contrast to the electric play they had displayed earlier in the season. Flick's side looked slow, imprecise, and disjointed on the ball. Against Las Palmas, the visitors went for a man-to-man approach in midfield from the outset, and Barcelona struggled to break free from their tight shackles. Even when the visitors backed off slightly, Barcelona still lacked the fluidity and precision that had been so evident in their previous victories. One of the most glaring examples of Barcelona's struggles was the performance of their star player, Robert Lewandowski. The Polish striker, who had been in sensational form up until this point, found himself unable to make an impact against Las Palmas. Having been La Liga's top scorer, Lewandowski had been instrumental in Barcelona's early success, including a crucial goal in the Champions League. But against Las Palmas, the 36-year-old couldn't find the back of the net, despite being presented with a clear chance late in the game. When Pau Victor, who had come on as a substitute, found him in front of goal in the dying moments, Lewandowski took too long to control the ball, allowing the defenders to swarm around him and snuff out the opportunity. Barcelona's form over the past few weeks has been nothing short of dismal. They've taken just 1 point from a possible 9 in La Liga, and the advantage they had gained over Real Madrid is now evaporating. If Madrid win their next 2 games, against Getafe and Valencia, they will overtake Barcelona at the top of the table. For Flick, it's a sobering reality, one that is hard to digest after such a promising start to the season. "We will have to accept that Madrid can go above us," Flick said after the loss to Las Palmas. "If any player is disconnected, the team doesn't function as it should. We have quality. The team tried for 90 minutes, but today, we came up short. We didn't know how to score, and we will have to have a different attitude." These comments encapsulated the frustration that seemed to be building within the team. Flick acknowledged that November had been a difficult month for the team, but he remained hopeful that December would bring a change in fortunes. Another issue that became painfully obvious during the Las Palmas defeat was the team's struggles in wide areas. With Lamine Yamal out due to an ankle injury, Barcelona lacked the attacking threat they had grown accustomed to. Yamal, at just 17 years old, had become a key figure in Barcelona's attack, and his absence was felt deeply. Although he had been sidelined for 3 weeks, Yamal made his return against Las Palmas, but he was understandably rusty. His passing was off, and his usual sharpness was lacking. Barcelona cannot afford to rely so heavily on a teenager, especially given the lack of viable alternatives in wide positions. Pablo Torre, who started in Yamal's place, is an extremely talented player, but he is still a step behind in terms of consistency compared to Yamal. On the right, Rafinha had scored yet again, but his usual threat was nowhere to be found. Neither Rafinha nor his full-back partner Jules Koundé were able to deliver the same level of performance they had shown earlier in the season. Barcelona had managed to cope with Yamal's absence in their midweek Champions League win over Brest, but against Las Palmas, the team's weaknesses were exposed once again. There is another underlying issue at Barcelona that has been difficult to ignore: Frenkie de Jong's struggles. The Dutch midfielder has long been one of the most highly regarded players at the club, but his time at Barcelona has been far from smooth. Many expected him to be the heart of Barcelona's midfield after his high-profile move from Ajax, but he has never truly settled into a defined role in the team. Whether as a holding midfielder or in a more advanced position, De Jong has failed to find consistency in his performances. Despite his immense talent, he has never quite lived up to the expectations set for him when he arrived at the club in 2019. The discontent surrounding De Jong was highlighted during the Las Palmas game, when he was whistled by the fans for the second time in a week. It was a stark reminder of the pressure he faces to lead the team as one of their captains. Barcelona's fans demand not only technical excellence but also leadership, and De Jong has struggled to deliver on both fronts. Despite receiving praise from teammates like João Felix and João Cancelo, who have publicly stated that De Jong is the most impressive player in training, the Dutchman's performances on the pitch have left much to be desired. For a player of his caliber, the expectation is that he will rise to the occasion, especially during difficult periods like the one Barcelona is currently experiencing. However, the truth is that De Jong's time at Barcelona has been a series of missed opportunities, and it's unclear whether he can ever fulfill the promise that made him one of Europe's most coveted midfielders. As Barcelona stumbles through this rough patch, there's a growing sense that the team is not quite as invincible as they once seemed. The reality is sinking in that, despite a great start to the season, the road ahead is full of challenges. How the team responds in the coming weeks will determine whether they can stay in the title race or whether this will be the season where their aspirations fall short. For now, all that remains is the hope that a change in attitude, a return to form, and perhaps some luck can turn things around before it's too late. That's the end of this video. If you liked the video, please make sure to subscribe the channel for more upcoming videos.